Hey guys, it's me again. With Sonic Generations X Shadow just releasing, I'm in full Sonic mode, and this isn't the first time that I have been recently. In 2022, Sonic Frontiers was announced. Most heralded it as the return of the golden age of 3D Sonic games, Sonic Adventure 4, if you will. And I was lucky enough to snag the game for $30 on Black Friday. It was put up as a Christmas gift, but nevertheless, I received that brand new game. And so, on St. Nicholas Day, I started Sonic Frontiers. And after 5 hours of straight gameplay on Christmas morning 2022 and a year and a half of free time, I'm 5 hours in. And so that was one of my goals for the summer, to finally mark Sonic Frontiers off of my backlog. But it's just so difficult, man. Like, the game isn't difficult. I mean, it kind of is, but we'll get to that. But it's difficult. And the reason why is kind of complicated. It's like an unsung understanding that the gaming community has regarding the Sonic franchise for some reason. But why not talk about it? I'm tired of dancing around ever since Sonic's rough transition to 3D. It's always kind of worked, but hasn't. I have 3 reasons, and I believe one of them is the sole reason why our favorite hedgehog will never be as popular as the world's favorite mustache plumber again. When it comes to Frontiers, I think this incarnation has a glaring issue. A pitfall that most modern day AAA titles fall into. It doesn't make me care about anything that I'm doing, ever. This game features the return of fan favorite characters, of which only one important one is there. Big the Cat and motherfucking Froggy. Okay, there's no way I'm putting that in the video. This game features the return of fan favorite characters, of which the only important one is Big the Cat and motherfucking Froggy. But despite Peak returning, I still do not care about the characters in this game. I'm helping them, but do I understand what's going on, really? When a reveal happens, do I care? No, I don't. The writing is bare bones at best, and frankly, it's just abstract lore pandering. I'm sorry, but now I'm not trying to be super harsh. Oh look, another YouTuber being negative about Sonic, but it just doesn't work at the end of the day, and I can't ignore that fact. Do not underestimate my statement here. It is 100% true. No game has made me want to skip the collectibles and go straight to what is necessary for progression like this game has. I get so overwhelmed by it all. And you can ask my dad, who I still play games with very often. Right now we're playing Fallout 4 together for the first time. And we swap the controller every quest, essentially. And there's so much to do in that game that we're like 50 hours in. And we've just now made it to Diamond City. The place that is really only the second part of the main story quest. I love doing side quests. I do side quests more than the main story most times. I'm a completionist. I have to look at how long to beat completionist time when planning out my games because I know I will get distracted by anything and everything, and I love it. But in Sonic Frontiers, I don't. I just don't. The upgrades don't feel like the upgrades they want to be. They're not bombastic. They feel like a chore. Most of them are just another set of combo attacks that I will forget to use and or microscopic increases in speed and jump. And on top of that, I couldn't even tell you if I can feel a difference in the way he moves from level 1 to level 99. It feels like a checklist. Want to talk about a chore? What the hell is this fishing game? Sega, how about you go up and fish some bitches? The enemy hitboxes in this game are rough at best. They move in the same patterns over and over again, making combat just become increasingly annoying. Like, bro, this ain't Dark Souls. Quit moving like that. The enemies feel like baby's first Elden Ring boss. You have to do one specific move and or wait for the perfect moment to strike. And what's most annoying is whenever I'm going on a big open stretch of land with nothing, which there are plenty of those too, and I get hit with another umbrella enemy out of nowhere to bounce all the way to the top of, and that's my favorite enemy. And the mini bosses are even worse. I feel like I just run into mini bosses and go, oh brother, guess I gotta do this eventually, guess I'll do it now. It's not like they're not fun, it's just their placement feels so random. In a game all about speed, I'm stopping to fight something every 5 seconds. But there is one enemy that I believe is well done. The game only really starts to actually flow in the final boss of each island. They're one of the elements reviews gravitate towards praising. They're big and epic. They give you that rush, that chaos at the end of Adventure 1 does. Supersonic every island? It presents a quality end goal to strive to obtain, and then it scratches that little short attention span TikTok brain itch by making us attempt to reobtain that power every other island. But nevertheless, if I have to be able to endure all of that just to get to play a glorified cutscene with fancy explosions and a Bring Me the Horizon song, actually it's Sleeping with Sirens, but still, is it really worth it? Is it the only reason I'm continuing to play? Not to actually interact and enjoy the elements? When the newness wears off, where's the substance? When the next game comes out, why should I care about this one? Ultimately, some of these things are not unique to Frontiers, but they are in some of their worst forms. Going back to your everyday enemies, instead of the grandiose ones Frontiers is saturated with, their predecessors, the enemies in SA1 and SA2, are sometimes frustrating and repetitive and even can stop the flow of the game, but they also help the flow at times, which is something Frontiers enemies never do. In SA2, they're placed as stage elements while simultaneously being obstacles themselves. It's what makes those games at times. They're still horrible about hitboxes all around though. One of my least favorite things about the Sonic franchise, no matter what new game you're playing, is the hitboxes. It seems to have never wanted to be fixed. Sonic Team just really does not know how to make hitboxes. Camera controls are one of those things that I think makes or breaks a game. If I can't easily adjust how I see or view the world that you're attempting to put me in or tell your story in, it's not only a red flag for the whole experience, but it's also just infuriating as I'll get out. If you can manage to get the camera controls themselves right, great. But what about the moments whenever the game wants to take control of the camera for you? You'd probably only want to utilize fixed camera to provide moments where the player is witnessing or focusing on what you want the player to truly focus on, right? A boss fight, a cutscene maybe. Letting the player feel like they're truly in control of the world otherwise. Or maybe you'd want to use them liberally to provide the player with a sense of following your chosen story, like a book. Each chapter plays out the same, enemy entrances are planned, cutscenes are seamless, and moments happen nevertheless. The customization and creativity and how the story goes is up to the small choices the players are allowed to make. The weapon they get to use, the skills they choose to allocate their skill points into. Either way, ideally, the use of a forced camera is with an intended purpose. Sonic Frontiers, however, they apparently didn't get the memo. A boss is one thing, I get that, but every single enemy is provided with a harsh turn in on the camera and a zoom in to focus on the enemy itself. And it's not only annoying, but makes quite a few devs be for frankly BS reasons. A camera turn should be released or something that can be controlled, not forced. Take Breath of the Wild. The game lets you decide if you want to fight the creature or just keep going. But every single time I run into one of the umbrella guys, I'm forced to stare and even go into the direction of them. Sometimes I don't even want to fight them. And in a game as big as Sonic Frontiers, you'll be wandering around for hours, so that's a huge issue. Okay, so what if they made an update and they fixed the forced camera angles and camera controls themselves? Could that save it? With the regular gameplay, the controls that the player is given right off the bat, the way the character behaves and handles in the space, would that be enough in and of itself to keep people interested and invested? Would it be cohesive enough to the thought process people have going in to a role-playing experience like a video game? The short answer is no. The long answer is also no. The turn radius is just way too wide in this game. Turning around to go get something that I missed or passed by, which happens a lot, is a tedious task at best and practically impossible at the worst. You have to do 50 circles just to line up anything. It's just not good. Wish I had more to say about it, but I think the gameplay itself gives a good enough indication of the quality, no matter the player. And I hate to say it, but honestly, it may just be... Come here. That Sonic's own speed is the primary downside itself. It's just too fast. A Sonic game needs guidance. It needs control. Otherwise, you're going to put a character into a huge space with either too much or nothing at all. And having too much means too much stopping, which is not only difficult, but not intuitive to speedster gameplay at all. And if you want to put that much, slow them down a bit. Make it a city to explore of ups and downs like Lego Batman 2. Incorporate layers and precision like the Good Boost games or SA2. Make it less than these big open deserts. Or if you're gonna do big open deserts, pick a stop location and jam it full of content, and then pick fun speed activities with minimal stops in between to help you get to the next stop. It's just that the controls combined with Sonic's own speed become even more of a glaring oversight when you put them into these large open spaces like Frontiers. And while it's something that's honestly quite lamer than the other reason, I think it's what is most arguably important when it comes to a game's enjoyability. How well the game controls. The little things. I love Ratchet & Clank 1 for everything it provides. The humor, the locations, the gadgets and weapons, the enemies even. But the controls, especially the camera controls, make it a game I don't come back to very often. So much so that I haven't even finished it before. It wasn't until Ratchet & Clank 2 with the implementation of the strafing mechanic that I feel like the gameplay became perfect. Before that, the camera didn't make sense. The character turned too wide and lining up things was a chore. The same exact problem plagues Frontiers. And honestly, every 3D Sonic game. The implementation of the strafing mechanic was their miracle fix. So maybe all Sonic needs is one thing new like that to make it peak gameplay. I mean, the strafing is literally the main reason I come back to Ratchet 2 and 3 instead of the first game like 9 times out of 10. The Sonic franchise's history of issues with the camera and controls makes any of the games borderline unplayable to me, a chore even. And you can't say it's something that they can't fix because yeah, it might take some time with the speed aspect, but they've had over 20 years. Ratchet & Clank fixed it in 1. And don't get me wrong, it's always been an issue. But to SA1 and SA2's benefit, which Frontiers takes inspiration from, the pathways in SA are narrow, the goals are clear, but the ways that you take to get to that goal are varied. It makes each playthrough unique and open-ended. In Frontiers, it throws you into that huge open map with those numerous amounts of collectibles we mentioned earlier, and that's good if you want to go for that, but at least let the player have some control. And while you can use the third dimension to your benefit, most puzzles have one specific way that they want you to achieve it, one specific route. It wants to be everything that Breath of the Wild and Mario 64 are, but forgets the most important part of those games. The control of those games are intuitive but simple, and they allow for freedom of expression in their clean, concise movement. Well, maybe not concise for Breath, but definitely freedom of expression. Sonic 06, being the original attempted successor to SA1 and SA2, even got this right. If only the controls and speed are up to par though. That aspect is why Sonic's first 2 real 3D games are so loved, despite how jank they can be. SA1 puts you on a map and says get to the end. It says we trust that you can make it there. Here's multiple paths. Frontiers says here's a grind rail and some jumps, now hit the funky pad or do the obstacle course flow in the middle of the sky. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. SA2 in my opinion has the perfect balance. It's open and still a 3D platformer, but routed in the same way Generations and Unleashed do, being the first to incorporate the multiple pathways and large running obstacle avoiding segments that inspired the Boost saga. And it works so well in fact that it's considered, in my opinion, to be peak Sonic. And hey, maybe one day I'll find the time to finally 100% it and make a video for you guys. But getting back to Frontiers, they're attempting to balance both SA2, Breath of the Wild, and Sonic Heroes, but none of that meshes well together whatsoever. In fact, they cancel each other out. They're different forms of expression. They may share elements, but they're far from the same. It makes Frontiers feel soulless in comparison, even though you can tell a great deal of love and passion were poured into this project. Or at least a little bit more than the recent projects from Sonic Team. I mean, at least whenever it comes to looking, I don't know, I didn't work on it. But this game has so much going well for it, but it just misses the mark every time. I have to actively work to finish it, or want to finish it, or get myself to want to play it. And the same can't be said for the newest original Sonic 2D games, Superstars and Mania. They find their flow. They're finding their flow. The current situation of 3D Sonic overwhelms and frustrates me. Every time the game goes to the 2D or boost segments, I'm locked in. Even though those are jank as well. I was never even a 2D Sonic guy. But I shouldn't have to feel like I'm playing the main game in order to play the side content. I feel like the huge open 3D world is just an obstacle to play the game that I want to play, which I would normally give like a 6 out of 10 if I was playing it by itself. If I hadn't grown up with 3D Sonic, I have no clue why I would even be dedicating myself to finishing it. I've become apathetic. And maybe that is what's wrong with modern 3D Sonic. It's not the controls, like I said. It's the fact that they cannot get me to care about their games anymore. And I mean, beyond the collectibles, beyond the bigger, wider, grandiose scope, I can't and don't care about the game itself. I care about the characters from Sonic X. I care about the characters from Generations. I care about the characters from SA2 and SA1. And that's the last little sliver of control they have over me. And that last little sliver of love for the brand is dwindling. A game franchise like Sonic is too fast to not spend years developing it. Generations and Unleashed took years because they created locales and then went by them so fast, opting to keep it a polished quality experience despite the work put in. Take 4 years off, Sega, and then make a game that makes me want to care about the franchise again. Make me care about your next game due to its quality, not the pandering. Frontiers is single-handedly one of the worst controlling games I have ever played. Keep in mind, I haven't tried Bubsy 3D yet, but still, it's chock full of bull to distract the player with, things that do not matter whatsoever and are tedious as hell. And the story, it's just plain okay at best. I had to physically restrain myself from pressing the skip button on every single cutscene. The performers are being restrained, attempting to do their best edgy impersonation of Sonic and friends, trying to change the direction of the storytelling, which I appreciate, but it all just comes off as disingenuous to the entire franchise. Sonic Team, you have the opportunity to make a fast-paced, simple platformer, and you overcomplicate it. You focus on the auxiliary instead of the foundation, the fluff over the fundamentals. KISS, bro. KISS. KISS, bro. Do something different. Give me something of quality to hold on to and trust you again. Frontiers was the first step, showing that you're willing to try something new, do something different. And it had some good, amazing aspects, but it had a lot of bad. Now take some of that. Now take some of your upcoming Generations remake and expand on that and create a true blend of everything that is as polished as possible. Make us care again. Well, there you guys go. There is the Sonic Frontiers review 2 years after its release. I actually thought about doing something when I first replayed it, but I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about, and then all of a sudden something came out of it. So the apathy just struck me. Honestly, that's probably what this video should be titled, is Sonic Frontiers makes me overwhelmingly depressed with apathy. I'm just kidding. But thank you guys seriously for watching the video. Check out some of these other videos that are on the screen right about now that I have on Sega properties, and I'll see you guys in the next one.